All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for the Go Zero Tour 2020, presented by Energy Trust of Oregon. My name is Zach Snyder. I'm Program Manager at Solar Oregon, and I am thrilled to be your host today. Solar Oregon is a nonprofit that has been educating about solar and other forms of clean energy for the past 4 decades. And this is one of the 2 large tours that we produce throughout the year. Just a little overview of what we're going to do today. So you are part of the first webinar of 2 webinars for the Go Zero Tour. And I'm going to kick us off with a welcome and introduction. And we have an amazing virtual tour website, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. And today we're going to hear live from 4 of our site homeowners who have zero energy homes and are here to share their story with you. The point of this webinar is very much to be interactive. So we're going to have a Q&A after each homeowner speaks, and also a rolling Q&A at the end. And I will share with you in a second how you can submit your questions. Like I mentioned, we have an amazing tour website, and so you're going to be able to see really great videos produced. We had an amazing videographer this year, Keelan Booth, produced a video for each site. We also have technical specifications and a narrative for each site, all on this website at bit.ly/virtual0. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go ahead and you can even pull it up during the webinar, but definitely check it out afterwards because there's a lot of information there for you. This is meant to be a multimedia tour, and the webinars are just one part of it. Today we're going to be taking a look at these 4 homes, Cully Green, in the Fisher residence in Ashland, Greiser ADU, and Ryan Shanahan's home. Thank you so much to our sponsors. We had amazing support for this event this year. Thank you to our title sponsor, Energy Trust of Oregon, who provides great support for a lot of the programming that Solar Oregon provides across Oregon. Thank you also to our zero energy level sponsors, including Green Hammer Design Build, Neil Kelly, and Elemental Energy, and of course, all of our sponsors. We really greatly value your support. Energy Trust of Oregon is an amazing resource for homeowners and builders across the state, across the region. They're an independent nonprofit, and they provide information and incentives for energy efficiency and for solar. I have some resources that I'm going to point out to you today for both of those things that are hopefully jumping off points for you on your own journey towards zero. A little bit about our nonprofit. Solar Oregon is a 501c3. We've been around, like I said, for over 4 decades, and our mission is to educate about solar energy. We do that through our Basics of Solar, which is one of our core programs. It's a great place to learn about all of the incentives and the technology and how to get started going solar yourself. We also do solar tours like the Go Zero Tour and a solar winery tour. That's what this picture is of on the right. As well as solarized campaigns, which really have exploded in popularity, and you'll see solarized campaigns around the world now, but they were invented right here at Solar Oregon, and it's a way for a community to go solar together. We are a member-based nonprofit, and I know that a lot of you already are members of Solar Oregon, so thank you so much if you are a member. If you're not a member and you want to become one, it's an amazing way to support all of the work that we do. It's $40 for a year for an individual, $60 for a family. You can find more information on the Solar Oregon website. You can email us, and we're also going to drop a link in the chat right now if you want to sign up as we speak. This event is part of an amazing series of events called Sustainable Building Week, and this is the third annual Sustainable Building Week in Portland. This one's all virtual, just like this tour. And because of COVID, because it's virtual, it's actually 2 weeks. So you get double the fun this year, and there's a ton of amazing free events. Most of them are free, some of them aren't. But it's really the leaders in green building coming together and sharing information with themselves and with the community. So please check it out, www.sustainablebuildingweek.org/events. And of course, thank you to the sponsors of the Sustainable Building Week. And here are some of the collaborators, some of our partner organizations that we're really excited to work with and alongside. So as I mentioned, the webinars for the Go Zero Tour are meant to be your interaction with the homeowners. And a big way that we do that is with Q&A. So if you have questions at any point during the webinar about anything to do with zero energy, energy efficiency, solar, and especially if you have questions for the homeowners and their experience, you can put that in the Q&A box. That's this icon right here if you mouse over your menu. And you can enter your questions as text there. Zoom also has a chat, which I highly encourage you to use. It's fun. You get to talk to the community. We are going to be dropping links in there. But if you have a question, please don't put it in the chat. Put it in the Q&A box. And finally, we use Zoom polling. This is a great way for me to take the temperature of who we're hearing, who I'm speaking to today. So I have just a few polls, but when I trigger one, you'll see a box like this pop up with the prompt, and you can select your answer. Some of them are multiple selections. You can select multiple. And I want to kick us off with a poll, and this is a poll that I have in all of our webinars. I love to know where you all are tuning in from because I can't see you across the great virtual divide. So I'm going to trigger this here. Go ahead and let us know, are you in the Willamette Valley? Are you in Central or Eastern Oregon or Southern Oregon or out of state? And we'll just take a minute for this. All right, we have 81% voting. That's pretty good as electoral processes go. I'm going to end the poll, and this is fully anonymous again, but I can share aggregate data and just so we can get a sense. Looks like the vast majority of people are from the Willamette Valley area, but we have people from all over Oregon, which is great. And there's one more poll that I want to launch right now, which is a poll that we have on all our webinars. Again, this is fully anonymous, but demographic information, again, helps us to understand who we are serving, and it's really useful for us as a nonprofit. And so go ahead and take a minute and fill out this poll. And like I said, this is anonymous, and we don't share this this information in our webinars. So. Great. I'm going to give just another 10 or 15 seconds or so, and then we're going to move on. All right. Thank you very much. So we are going to jump into our stories, but before we do that, I want to give you a very brief overview of zero energy, because I realize that some of us might be coming out of straight out of the woods and not knowing what zero energy is and what is this newfangled term. Zero energy is really simply when you produce as much energy over the course of a year as you consume. It means that you're meeting all of your energy needs locally right where you are. And this is with solar energy is a really great way to do this. Zero, you know, this right here, this is actually one of the houses on the tour, and we're going to hear from the homeowner in just a second. But this is an older home, and energy efficiency is a huge part of zero energy. It's not just producing as much energy as you consume, but it's making sure that you are taking all of the measures to use efficient appliances. It means potentially adding insulation for retrofit homes. It might mean using things like heat pumps versus less efficient furnaces. And it might mean things like weatherization. And all of this taken together produces a site that doesn't require, it's zero energy doesn't mean you're not connected to the grid. Zero energy, when all of the sites on this tour are connected to the grid still, but it just means that over the course of the year, they are self-sufficient in terms of meeting their needs in that aggregate way. I want to give you just a few resources. So this is for new homes. This is also for older homes that you're retrofitting. And if you are interested in resources for making your own existing home more efficient and closer to zero energy, or actually achieving zero energy, great place to start is with Energy Trust of Oregon. They have, you can go to energytrust.org/residential and see all sorts of information and resources to help you start with energy efficiency for your home. You can also, if you're interested in solar energy, which is producing your own energy, you can go to energytrust.org/programs/solar, and they have a great tool where you can get, you fill out a quick form online and you get contacted by 3 contractors who will give you free quotes for solar, and that will help you to explore the solar potential of your home. If you are interested in and looking at a new home and you want to see how you can make sure that that new home is zero energy, Energy Trust of Oregon has great resources again. You can go to energytrust.org/residential/new-homes-solutions. They have a lot of resources there. They can help you find a local qualified builder who can build zero energy. They also have great resources, and Energy Trust of Oregon has a brand new net zero specification that builders can follow to make sure that they're building zero energy. So Energy Trust really does a lot here. So with that, and actually right before we jump into our tour, I have one more poll for you. And this is to get a sense of what most interests you about zero energy. If you're not sure yet, that's totally fine. If you're more interested in how to retrofit a home, that's great. If you're interested in new homes, zero energy homes, that's also great. There's, like I said, there's the energy efficiency side, the solar side, and of course, if you're interested in the cost of zero energy. This is multiple choice, so go ahead and click all the ones that you are interested in. I'm going to give just a minute for this. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up in a second. Looks like we've got everybody, or close to everybody. So this is great. It looks like there's a broad range of interest, which is good. Maybe slightly more interest in energy efficiency. That's great. So let's go ahead, and I would love to introduce our first homeowner. I'm really excited to have Ryan Shanahan here to share the story of his home, which is not an easy home to make zero energy. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have Ryan's home on the tour, is that this really demonstrates, because it's an old home, a 1907 home, it really demonstrates the ability to go zero energy. So Ryan, are you on the line?
I am.
Great. Welcome. And do you want to share the story of your site and your experience with zero energy?
Sure. I wanted to thank you for having me on here. It's frankly an honor. I didn't think it would be possible to live in a zero energy home before retirement. It seemed like something that only well-off people could accomplish. So I hope I can inspire others that this is something that's possible you can achieve. I got obsessed with the concept working at Earth Advantage. You'll see a bunch of Earth Advantage certified zero homes on this tour. So my work is literally working with new home builders and building the energy efficient programs, including managing our zero energy certification program. So I was deep into the weeds of what it takes to get homes there years ago. And you know, when I first started doing this work, it was a custom home here or there that was getting there, built by the greenest builders in the state, and they were killer projects, and they were really inspiring, but I, again, didn't think it'd be something I could ever afford. Well, fast forward to today, you know, 10 plus years later, there are tons of really cool off-the-shelf technology available to do this. And so I just started doing it to my 1907 home, one step at a time. And then we took a big plunge on a much more significant remodel last year. It pretty much took us all the way. And now we're just playing the waiting game. We're about a month away from getting our 1 year's results on whether we actually achieved it or not. But you better believe I've been tracking the data all along the way. And I've got a pretty good idea that we're probably going to get there. But I'll tell you, ironically, if we don't get there, I'm going to blame it on that nasty smoke event, because that cost us about 200 kilowatt hours of really good sunny days where we could have been producing. So yeah, I mean, that's my background. Are you going to be sharing photos of the home during this webinar, or should I just go in and start sharing my screen now?
If you have photos lined up, feel free to share them. I can also share the website.
Okay.
But
Yeah, so I wanted to just highlight to all the people on the tour that might not have heard from the very beginning. If you look at the chat, the very beginning of this whole chat, there's a link. The bit.ly link will take you to the much nicer professional photos of the finished product of our house. I figured on here I could share my screen and walk people through sort of the process that we went through with our remodel. So assuming you can see my screen, I'll start with, you know, this is really kind of what our house looked like on the back when I moved in a few years ago, 2014. Since then, I we sort of did our work backwards in that I did all the active stuff first. I was afraid to do active, meaning mechanicals and appliances and light bulbs, et cetera. Passive solutions would be like insulation and air sealing. I was afraid to insulate my house because I had knob and tube old electric wiring in our 1907 home. So I did all the active stuff first. So we switched off from gas and went to ductless mini splits, heat pump water heater, all LED light bulbs, all Energy Star electric appliances. And that more or less cut our energy bills in half. And then last year we took on this big remodel project where I tore out the chimney that you see pictured here. And we tore off all the old siding, and which I'll note looks pretty good in this photo, but there were some bad sides where it looked really beat up on the south side in particular. So let's see, rewind us to the beginning here. Here's some photos of structural upgrades we did in the attic to be able to host the solar. So sorry, I cut myself off. We replaced the siding, we replaced the roof. With those things off, we were able to address that knob and tube issue with new electrical systems. We upgraded to a 200 amp panel from a 100 amp panel. And then we were able to add insulation and do as much air sealing as possible because those two things go hand in hand. Made the house about twice as airtight as it was before, and took the walls from 0 insulation to 2x4 wall insulation. Same with our roof rafters. We went from 2x4s that you can sort of see here in some of these photos. This is probably the clearest one. This is a good picture of like what it looked like before, and all of this new fresh lumber you can see are the structural upgrades we added in to be able to host the solar on the roof. And then there was some insulation in here, but as you can see, it's sort of all over the place. This is now completely blown in, so you can't even hardly see the structural members anymore. So we were able to insulate and air seal while those things were off and get new siding, new trim, and we recently painted to match it all up. Here is a photo of our old furnace and ductwork that I tore out of the house myself. Man, was that disgusting. I cannot believe we were breathing that air going through our ductwork for all that time. I'm gonna find some more photos that I think are interesting. Let's see, here you can see where the chimney used to go through the overhang on the eave there. That was interesting to take down. This is probably the best photo of that. I took that down myself. You can see the pile of rubble below. I did borrow a harness from a friend, so that was safe. Let's see. Here you can see a huge pile of old siding and some of the rubble from the chimney that we took down. Let's cut to some more exciting stuff. This is a funny little doll we found in the attic that my wife did not want to keep, but I insisted on. We did some funky little structural upgrades while we were at it. Like we had this sagging floor system that we had, we hired Neil Kelly to do this remodel. And they did a really nice job here where they poured a legit new footer and got that part set up to prevent the house from sagging anymore. So we try to, basically the lesson learned and that I really want to pass off is how much you can sort of push things together and make economic sense. The auto body shop next door had a recycler. That's this orange truck that would come by for stuff. They came by and took all of my old furnace for me, ductwork for free. This charred 2x4 here was found in our attic. Evidence at one point there was some sort of a fire. let's see what else I wanted to share. Here's a photo of me all decked out in junky clothing and kind of hazmat gear to get in there and do the attic upgrade work that was necessary. We found things in the walls we didn't know were there. This photo shows like an old, where an old electric panel used to be. And as you can see here, this was the state of our walls when we took off the siding. There was no sheathing, no structural sheathing, no water resistant barrier, no insulation. This is just the lath and plaster on the inside that you're seeing from the outside. We did find some insulation in some areas of the house, but it was really nice to have them put real deal plywood sheathing on the house. I'm trying to get to a photo here where you can see a bunch of layers at once, which I think are really telling of what we did.
So Ryan,
I took a bunch of, yes.
there was in your journey towards zero energy, it looks like there were a lot of things that you did, and you did a remodel work on your own that involved things that were, siding, things like the reinforcement for the solar that were necessary because this is an older home, right? And,
Yes.
And some of it was also just useful in general because it was an older home. But then you also had a remodel from Neil Kelly. Which was the bigger part of the your necessary retrofit for going zero energy?
Well, that's what I was saying. We did about half of the energy stuff through the active systems. And then the next half was a combination of the energy efficiency built in of having actual proper air sealing and insulation, as well as what the solar provided. So hopefully that makes sense. About half of it was switching from completely old inefficient systems to very efficient new electric systems. And then the other half was split between solar production and energy efficiency. So I really wanted to show this photo because you can see new siding and trim on the house. You can see that there's a water resistant barrier above the trim where it's flapping down here. You can see actual plywood. You can't really see it, but where there's little bits of gray tape, that's where they put holes in the siding to blow in insulation. And then that gray tape is one of the only little geeky tips and tricks that I wanted to pass on to people that aren't necessary, but I think it's a real opportunity to do something on the cheap. I bought some air sealing tape from Small Planet Supply, and had the siders tape all the seams. It cost us about an extra $250 to do this. And I think it was worth it because that's something you can never get back in and do. So what that really did was add a better air seal to the sheathing layer in addition to your primary air barrier, which is on your sheetrock on the inside. But I really like this photo because it highlights those things. And let's see here, you can see on the foundation between these two layers of green, we just had a completely crumbling, terrible parge coat on our old foundation. That was also fixed as part of our latest paint job.
Ryan, your house is beautiful, but it also seems like a nightmare in some ways from a zero energy perspective. It's amazing you were able to get to zero energy.
It had some stuff going for it. So I know it seems that way when you see these gnarly photos, but what it had going for it was a basic rectangle with the long side facing south. And it had south facing roof plane. So that makes it really easy to be energy efficient. It had 2-foot overhangs on the eaves, which is really nice for protecting the house from weather and shading in the summer. For example, when the sun is at its peak in around June 20th, we get hardly any sun coming directly into the windows.
So Ryan, what would you say to someone else who has an older home, which this is a 1907 home, and this is so inspiring to me to see it get to zero. What would you say to someone else who has an older home in terms of how can they go about, if they don't know all the ins and outs of zero energy that you do from your experience at Earth Advantage, how can they get started, and what was it that made it accessible to you? You were talking about that you didn't think you were able to afford to go zero, especially on this kind of older home.
Good question. So the first thing anyone should do that's interested is definitely to have their home energy audited. There's kind of two forms of energy audits. A really cheap one would be like a home energy score audit, HES audit. There's definitely some useful information there. I really stress that for older homes because it'll assess where your home is and what kinds of things can be done. That's the low-hanging fruit, the things that'll pay themselves off the fastest. So that's for somebody who doesn't have the background that I have. It's a really good start to figure out what they need to do, because some homes have insulation in the walls already. Some homes don't. So figuring that out is a really basic primer of where to start. All homes are going to need air sealing, but that audit can also help you figure out where the air sealing should be focused, because it's not always the same from one house to the next. As far as paying for it, we were able to borrow against the equity in our house. So in that way, we're just privileged. We were lucky to buy our house at a time when we could afford it, and it gained a lot of equity in a short amount of time, and we were able to borrow against that. But I want to make it clear that, we didn't have all this extra money lying around. We borrowed against it. We're still paying it off today. And I'd like to think our energy savings are helping us pay that off. So, at the end of the day, it comes down to if there's a will, there's a way. And my wife and I feel very passionately about this. We're vegan, we ride bikes, we, we do all the things, but we really wanted to take it a step further and do this for our home. We also added a electric car charging outlet in our garage. We don't have an electric car yet, but the goal is to pay off this remodel and then purchase an electric car. And so we've got the outlet ready to go in the garage when the time comes.
That's fantastic. We're actually a little bit over time. So what I'm going to do is, if you could stop sharing, because that's interfering with my Q&A. I see the Q&A box.
Sorry, I really like this power trip.
Yeah. We've got some questions here. So I want to give just a couple of questions to you. One question is, Ryan, there's a few here. What is the clear plastic sheeting on the exterior wall? It looks like in lieu of Tyvek.
Yeah, that was just temporary. So that clear plastic sheeting was to protect the home while the outermost layers were off during potential overnight rain events.
Okay. And how long did this process take for you?
The entire process took 6 years. I mean, I started with small stuff in 2014. The remodel itself took us 3 months maybe. But we added in all kinds of little stuff that you're not seeing here, like add a kitchen range vent, add a little heater to the bathroom, that little structural upgrade in the basement, stuff that, isn't necessarily part of the math of zero energy.
Yeah. And what were the active versus passive costs? Was that what you're like half and half?
So I'll try and do this quickly. The active stuff is easier because I bought those things individually, So to switch out our old furnace and go to a 4-head ductless mini split system, so every room has its own heating system, that was $12,000. The heat pump water heater I got for around $800 on a super deal. Right now you can get them for similar pricing if you look around, right? If you have an electric water heater now, that thing's going to pay for itself in like 2 or 3 years in operational energy savings. And so those were the easy numbers. As far as the big remodel to do siding, I couldn't even tell you what it added up to. And I don't know if it's that useful. It's really going to be different from home to home.
Right.
The solar system, again, is another thing that's going to be wildly different from one house to the next.
Great. We do have more questions here. I am going to leave these till a little bit later towards our Q&A at the end, just so we can get some more presenters in here. Ryan, thank you so much. I love seeing all your photos, and having your story here I know is a really great value for everybody watching.
Thank you.
All right. So now we are going to move into a different type of project, which is a new, eventually going to be an ADU. And by eventually, you'll see what I mean. I would like to introduce John Greiser, who is going to talk about his recently finished, correct?
Yes, correct.
So John,
is this working?
I can hear you, yeah.
Are we live? Great. Well, thank you, Zach, for organizing all of this and putting this all together. Yeah, thanks for kicking it off, Ryan. Like you said, it's been a dream to get to this place. And for me, I think this dream started 10 years ago. 10 years ago, next week is the founding date of Elemental Energy. Myself and my business partner, Brandon, we started Elemental Energy here in Portland 10 years ago, October 2010. And we came to Portland to study renewable energy engineering at the Oregon Institute of Technology. And it was a dream at that point, 10 years ago. We dreamed of a solar powered future. We dreamed of electric cars. We dreamed of homes in Portland, Oregon, with its rainy reputation, being able to produce all of their own electricity on their own rooftops. And I mean, that was just a dream for us, studying this and trying to tackle this and bring this technology to the masses. And it didn't even occur that it could be a dream to achieve myself. So here we are 10 years later, and I bought a property in Cully in Northeast Portland, 64th and Prescott. It was a vacant lot, one of the rare vacant lots in the city of Portland. And, gravel roads and big lots and all of that. And I just took my time trying to figure out how I wanted to approach this project. And I would tell all my friends, I'm trying to build a house so that I finally have somewhere to put all my solar panels. We've been installing, over 1,000 systems in the Portland metro area over the last 10 years and feel very fortunate to be able to kind of walk that talk and put that into practice on my own roof. And it feels good. It feels amazing knowing that from this year forward, I won't have to pay an energy bill on my house. The concept for this home was obviously 100% solar powered, and meaning I brought no fossil fuels onto the property. There's no natural gas, nothing like that. Everything in the house is 100% electric. And I wanted to showcase solar in a unique way. I wanted to show that it doesn't have to just be, rectangular solar modules on your roof, that you can architecturally incorporate this. And I wanted to kind of plant that seed into a lot of people's minds and just show one example of how you can integrate solar into a home that's maybe different than what you've seen before. And I want to get people's wheels turning, and I want to see what other people can come up with. So this whole project, just as a quick overview, this home that you're about to see is intended to ultimately become the ADU. It's the first structure I built on this property. Again, taking a vacant lot and took a few years to kind of come up with the concept. And I had 3 or 4 different designs in that timeline, and then finally said, okay, I want to do it simple. I want to do it highly energy efficient, and I want to start small because I want to be highly involved in the project. So I general contracted the whole project. I framed it with a friend. I did as much work as possible. So this home you're about to see, again, intended to be the ADU. So that was a little complex with the city of Portland, making sure that I call it a Venn diagram. There's the zoning codes for what it takes to be a primary residence. There's the zoning codes for what it takes to be an ADU. And somewhere in the middle, there's a little sliver where a structure in a building can comply with both. So that took a lot of work, a lot of studying, late night studying of Portland zoning code to figure that out. So this project was built and permitted as the primary dwelling unit, as the house. But in a year or two, when I embark upon building the main house, I will at that point then reclassify this building as the ADU, which it's ultimately intended to become. So I guess if there was a hashtag for this house, it would be hashtag small house, big solar. It's 571 square feet, but it has 10 kilowatts of PV. It's kind of an absurd amount of solar for such a small house, given that, I pursued the Earth Advantage, not only the Earth Advantage Zero Energy certification, but also the Earth Advantage Platinum Energy Score certification. And I just last week got my home energy score and certification letters and everything. The energy score is 0 on this building. And I'm telling Ryan, who just went before us, that we should make a new category for what is the most negative on energy score, or what is the most net positive house. So I'm calling this a net positive house because in the course of a year, it generates more energy than it consumes. Why did I do that? Well, again, I just needed to find somewhere to put all the solar panels that I have from 10 years of work in this business. But also, I wanted this home to be able to be not only 100% solar powered, but 100% solar powered any day, any moment of the year. That it is capable of being off grid, operating completely independently, any time of year, winter, summer, with a hot tub. I wanted to show to everyone out there that yes, in Portland with our rainy reputation, you put solar on a building, you incorporate that architecturally and make it look great, and you add energy storage, yes, you can power your entire world completely independently, completely self-reliantly, in absence of the grid, indefinitely, with a hot tub. So this is not like living by candlelight, And I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Wes. Wes is my solar brother. I'm wearing his hat right here. Wes is the owner of Tiny Watt Solar. He puts solar on all things tiny in the world, vans, sailboats, you name it. And he is currently at my house right now. You might wonder, where the heck am I sitting? I am currently in a job trailer. I got my crew out here. Everyone say hi, you're on the tour. Solar Oregon Zero Energy Home Tour. We're in Roseburg, Oregon. We just finished putting up this solar install on this shop building for this house. This house is also zero energy. This is just in every man's house in the suburbs of Roseburg, Oregon, and proving that it could be anybody, it could be any house, any structure that could be zero energy. So we just wrapped up the install right now. The guys are basking in the sunlight beneath the project. We have our auxiliary solar panel that we always bring with us, wired into this work trailer, mobile job station. My desk is an old solar panel. Point is, anything solar, we love it. But wanted to give a shout out to Wes. Wes is on the scene in my house, ready to give us a walkthrough. So if we can get Wes up on the webinar and say hi, and we can start giving everyone a look.
Hi everyone, thanks for the shout out, John. I'm gonna turn the camera around here so we can see what John's talking about. So there's his beautiful, humble abode. And as you can see, there's more room on site here. So obviously that is probably where the master house will go one day. And so as we take a look at John's place, got a nice little patio, a little bit of construction stuff going on. And I'm actually gonna give you guys a quick little peek at the roof here. So bear with my walking. We're gonna come back to this beautiful integration of solar. These are translucent panels, which is a really nice feature. I remember John telling me he was going to do that, and he did it. So allow me to climb up this ladder here and show the roof. Beautiful array. Tiny house, but no shortage of solar.
So I think the point here that's really good to make is that it's think about solar as soon as you can in the design process. You know, think about solar when you're talking with your architect or your building designer. If you are building a new structure, it's so much easier and cheaper. Therefore, if you start thinking about it right away, you know, all I had to do to get that array to fit perfectly on the roof was adjust the overhang of the eaves 6 inches on either end, which gave me 18-inch overhangs, which is a great feature to have aesthetically, and then also like, you know, rain management wise on the siding of the house. But that extra 18 inches afforded me a very perfectly fitting array, which, you know, it's 10 kilowatts on a 570 square foot house, which is a lot, but it doesn't look like a lot because it's, you know, it integrates, you know, very cleanly. It looks like it's meant to be there. And there's a lot of features, you know, a lot of benefits of doing the solar integration from the get-go, you know, working with your electricians. And I always like to communicate to all of our electricians and anyone we're working with and builders that solar it's nothing crazy. Like electrically, it's a glorified branch circuit. It's really not any different than running a circuit over to your oven or to your dryer. And if you talk about it in those terms and think about it from the beginning of a construction project, yeah, just run an extra 8.3 Romex from the electric panel through an exterior disconnect for code compliance and utility net metering satisfaction, and then run that 8.3 Romex up to the roof. And it makes everyone's job faster, simpler, easier, cheaper, and more well integrated. So simple steps like that, you can get, you know, good rewards on your solar project if you start thinking about it from the get-go. So yeah, Wes just showed us there's the patio cover / carport cover, which has those bifacial solar modules. Bifacial modules, just a quick side note, super interesting technology. It can generate electricity from solar hitting either side of the module surface. So by keeping the get a note here from Lindsay saying that we can't see the video that Wes is sharing while I'm talking. I don't know if Zach, you can do something about that, but
I could also talk if you want me to talk and just give everyone a little quick walkthrough here.
Yeah, Wes, do you want to?
That's fine.
Solar better than anyone. Go for it.
Well, I'll happen to point out that my last name is Watts, but other than that, John has a beautiful place here that one day hopefully I'll be able to do the same thing. But this is those translucent panels he was talking about. I believe these are 380 watts each.
Yes.
But okay. I thought I knew what I was talking about. So anyways, and you know, beautiful integration here with the outdoor lighting and the cedar, which is awesome for a nice outdoor seating area. And I'm gonna just go around through the front door here and kind of do a quick little walkthrough.
Wrap it up in a couple minutes to get the next speaker on.
Yep, I'll make this quick, but I thought everyone would like to see that on our way in the front door here. So just a quick little walk around and seating area. We'll get down into the kitchen, all solar appliances, of course, electric oven, microwave, refrigerator, dishwasher, nice little kitchen, electric kettle, solar powered jukebox under the stairs. So you got to have one of those. And then we have solar washing machine, solar dryer. This is where the heating system is going to be installed. And I know that he has radiant heated tubing that he's run into the concrete slab. So when that is finally hooked up, there will be hot coolant pumping through the concrete floors. And then last but not least, the solar powered hot tub. So pretty cool to be able to have that. And as John was talking about in the winter months, there's some energy storage on this project, which brings me around back here to look at the 2 Tesla Powerwalls. So I believe those are around 11 kilowatt hours each in energy storage, and he's got 2 of them. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
This is just such an amazing kind of integration, fully integrated in the site. And what I'm super interested in is the power walls working together, creating that energy resilience and allowing it to all be off grid too. I think that's not really something that's central to, you don't have to do that with zero energy. It's a little bit tangential, but there are so many good co-benefits there. If anybody has a question for John for his site, go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we'll do just a couple questions for John's site. John, I see someone here is asking, what is the siding?
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, what's the siding? What's the material there?
I'm sorry, I think it's breaking up. What is what material?
The siding on the side there.
Siding material, it's hardy fiber cement. I just did the 4x8 sheets of smooth hardy with the vertical batten strips. Siding look, I wanted to mimic a Swedish countryside house. My grandfather is from Sweden, was a custom home builder, and was the first man to teach me how to use tools. So kind of in his honor, I wanted to make it look like the house he grew up in. So, but yeah, it's hardy, simple, cheap, lasts forever.
That's great. And do you make money on the surplus solar electricity, or just get credits from the power company? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, that's a really good question. No, there is no financial incentive or reason to put so much solar on your house that it produces more on an annual basis than what you consume. Anything that the billing cycle for the utilities is from April in one year to the end of March of the following year, which just so happens to naturally perfectly follow the cycle of solar generation and your monthly net excesses or deficits on a monthly cycle of billing. So you start storing your excess credits on a net zero home, typically in April. You start building that balance of credits throughout the summer, and you start consuming that balance of credits in the winter. And then by March, you've exhausted all of your credits from the previous summer. Any credits that are left over at that end of that billing year get donated to the low income assistance fund with the utilities. So they do go to good use somehow, but for the homeowner, there's no direct benefit, no financial incentive. So.
That's great. And I've got a couple of questions here quickly about the energy storage with the power walls. One is just a clarifying one. Is the house grid tied?
The house is grid tied. Technically, it's a grid tied with battery backup system. The Tesla Powerwall software and app integration is really great. There's 3 modes you can operate your system in. There's backup mode, which basically sets your batteries at 100% state of charge all of the time, basically ready for a momentary power outage at any time with full storage capacity. The other mode is maximize self-consumption. That's the mode that I am operating in. So that means it will use solar and energy stored in your battery as the primary sources to power your home. And it will only, while it is grid tied, it will only draw from the grid when it needs to, which is basically if your batteries get fully depleted or if your instantaneous power draw is greater than what your batteries and solar can provide. So my home has been operating in that mode. So it has been, and I have a report on my app I can look at. It has been 99% self-powered since I turned the system on in May. I don't know where that 1% came from. I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe it's a rounding error, but so yes, it's grid tied, but the grid just sits there as a passive connection, waiting till the software and the system demands its use. So the third mode, real quick, is something that a lot of users in California would opt to operate in, which is time of use arbitrage, which is basically when you have a utility rate structure that has a higher cost of energy during peak times than during off-peak times, you can use your battery to basically fully charge during the off-peak times when electricity is cheap, and then have the batteries discharge into your home when electricity is expensive. So avoiding your need to buy that expensive electricity. So there is voluntary opt-in programs with both Pacific Power and PGE in Oregon for time of use. The delta between the on-peak and the off-peak pricing is pretty small relative to what it is in California. So, you know, folks in California that operate in that mode are paying their batteries off very quickly and then having the additional benefit of having backup power. Here, there is somewhat of a financial return, but it's over such a long time that it's, in my opinion, not worth cycling your battery for that purpose, for financial purposes. But those are the three modes. Yes, it is grid tied, but it is operating in self-consumption mode.
That's great. John, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's super cool to see the site, and I hope that you have many warm hot tub days when the power is out.
Everyone's welcome.
Hot tub party at John's.
If there's an outage in Northeast Portland and Pacific Power, you guys know where to go.
That's great. Thanks, John. All right, we are going to move along now, and we're just a couple minutes behind, but we're going to give time to Eli, who is going to share his experience. Eli's developing the Cully Green, which is Eli, do you want to describe it? It's a co-housing community that is at least partially zero energy.
Well, thank you. Thanks for including me in this. My parents were on solar home tours in Washington, D.C. when I was growing up, so I've been at them since a babe. And I'm glad that we got to showcase accessory dwelling units, the best kind of housing type we can slip into existing neighborhoods. But this project that I'm going to show off is called Cully Green. It's a 23 home community. And it's a mixed income community. 3 of the homes are affordable to first-time home buyers, and they will be on turnover forever through a partnership with Community Land Trust in a town called Portland. It's called Proud Ground, sorry. And the idea is to live in co-housing communities that you've got homes that are relatively small, but you've got substantial shared common spaces indoor and out, including guest rooms, a common house for shared meals, and outdoor areas your kids can play, shared bike facilities, and lots of opportunities for residents to not have to own their own rake, canoe, pickup truck because they can share it with their neighbors. So I think visuals go a long way, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen and do a little tour from today. I should say I'm a general contractor and a developer here in the Cully neighborhood, and let's see if I can make this work. So here is a site plan of the project, and you can see it's sort of an unusual site. It's 1.4 acres, and part of it faces one street, Going Street over here, and part of it faces 47th Avenue over there. And in between, there's a nice garden connection between the two parts of the site. There's a common house in the middle and some other structures, but we don't have to look at the picture here. We can actually tour through the site, so hopefully this will work. Let's see if we can start this up. So I'll talk while we go. So this is the job site sign, and you can see we preserved some existing trees along the street. And then this is the pedestrian bike route that goes right through the middle of the community between 2 and 3 unit buildings. And we did townhouses because that's they're relatively small. They're 1,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet. Sorry about the construction noise. And we've got, as you can see, we had some fun with the pathway going down the middle. And although it's now covered with bark dust, people will be able to make, you can see we have some bike stamps and hand stamps from the kids in the concrete. But everyone will be able to garden up the front yards, and that's what we expect to happen. You can see up here on the left, if we get a closer shot, maybe I missed it. We got some of Elemental's crew putting solar panels on right now. And now we're going into the central grove in the middle of the community. So you see these trees here. My family used to live in one of the houses that previously was on this site. And this is where we hang out in the grove of trees. And I thought it was important to try and keep that there. Also on the left side, you see the common house. Everyone will be able to share that. It's got 2 guest bedrooms upstairs. You don't have to host a guest in your house if you don't want to. In front of us now is the bike building. There's room for over 50 bicycles in there, supporting other forms of transit, and there'll be outlets for them so you can charge them up. You can see we've got some people working here. That's Jake, and our electrician. And now we're heading over to some live edge wood that we milled out of one of the trees we took down. This is going to be garden area ahead of us. And now you're looking at a beautiful natural built garden gazebo structure for having picnics outside, attached to a garden shed where tools can be stored. You can see as you go by here, the homes are all 100% electric. We didn't bring gas into the project site. So that means you've got mini splits for heating. You've got heat pump water heaters, induction ranges. The last project we did was 14 homes and they all had induction ranges. I didn't get any complaints. People like them. I think they were antsy at first. We're approaching now through to the other street, and there we preserved an existing house and a huge oak tree up the front. And so I'm not totally dogmatic about preserving homes and trees. We did take down some of each for this project, but whenever we can, I try and keep them here because they're beautiful, and it means that new development won't feel as intrusive because there's things taller than it, you know, the trees are when it's completed. So getting out to 47th Avenue here, we find the existing house was built in the middle of last century, and that one we renovated, and that one actually still has the gas in it. So I'm hopeful they take it out, but I didn't take it out myself. I'll let someone else do that. So that's the little video tour. This is the other frontage from the street. And then this is a couple images. You can see workers from today getting the crew up. This is the little garden structure. These are all the buyers. So this project's almost 100% pre-sold. 21 homes are sold. There's just 2 left. And many of them have kids, and they came out at various parts of construction. We're doing an eco roof on that structure. Here's a little tour. I like to put art in everything I can, so I just can't resist. And this is a great metal art piece by Richard Cawley, which goes up the stairs inside the common house. He made a beautiful little bike rack for us. It'll be in the front. And when you get a big bikes, you can just pick any color rack you want. So I just picked some of each. I like colorful items. This is the bike storage room you're seeing.
Yeah, it's such a cool site, and it's so unique. And to have it be zero energy on top of that is amazing. And to have it also have units that are affordable is just it seems like a really great combination. You're focusing on community there. How big of a part of your philosophy in what you do is zero energy construction and energy efficiency, and why?
I want people who live here to be able to have a really low carbon footprint. So we go to great lengths to decrease the amount of electricity they'll need. I purposely make the home small and attached, which is the best thing you can do for the environment, more important than the heating system you use. And when it came to PV, I've done speculative PV in the past, but this time I didn't build it into the budget. Buyers had the opportunity to add it onto the purchase price. And I'm gonna stop screen sharing here so I can get out of this. But the reason but we gave them a sweetheart deal. We bid out PV panels to a couple different providers. We got pricing that dropped the more people signed on for it. And it worked out so that if they financed the photovoltaic system, then the additional cost of their mortgage was more than offset by the savings in electricity. So they saved money from day one by putting that PV system on. And that's true for the market rate buyers who get 0.3, you get 30 cents per watt from Energy Trust of Oregon, which is a big supporter on this. The land trust buyers, we have 6 people who income qualified for the $1.50 per watt subsidy. And they're getting an incredible deal so that they won't have to pay electric bills. 3 of the homes in this community are going to be net zero. And this is net zero using the strongest definition, which means that there's no gas into the project. So it literally does include all of the electricity use of the house. And we've done stuff for water also. We've got gray water. Every home is plumbed for gray water from the washing machine. And we've also have separate sub meters for the water coming into the project because people pay actually what they use. It's not this amorphous shell game of who's got the leak. because there's one big water bill. Everyone pays what they actually use, which I think is important. And for parking, we have electric charging stations for every parking spot. And once again, the parking spaces are sold separately. So if you don't want one, you don't have to buy it.
So Eli, this is great. And what you were saying, when you're talking about the incentives, there's the $1.50 versus the 30 cents per watt. You know, watts and kilowatt hours and all of this electrical jargon can kind of be complex. But what are the main incentives here? You're talking about your choice for your buyers was, do you want a home or do you want a home with solar and to pay less for it, essentially, right? Because
yeah, people have already, they'd already reserved the home, and then we gave them the opportunity to add solar to it. But by doing the homework ahead of time to do the math for them and figure out with their current mortgage rates, we were able to say, honestly, that if you add solar onto your house, your monthly payments are going to go down if you take into account your electric bill and your mortgage.
That's incredible.
So and then once 8 people signed up, then everyone's price went down because I had better pricing for my contractor. The more people signed up. So once we got up to 20 people, then everyone's price went down again, and it was easier and easier to get the last few people to sign on. So so we ended up getting 100%. I honestly didn't expect we were going to get that high, but I'm thrilled that we did. So those homes are going to be plastered with over 400 panels, 118 kilowatt system total, and it's going to be as a community, it won't be probably generating quite as much electricity as the community uses, but pretty darn close.
Yeah, taken together with the small housing design, which is what you were saying is so important. And maybe the most important thing is, you know, live small, and that really reduces your needs. Yeah, it seems like you really build all of it around, you know, how to make it like efficient, but also the community aspect. What I'm really curious is you're a developer and a contractor. You know, is this something that is profitable for you? Like, do you see that there's a market in it? How much do people want to live in an efficient home like this? And where do you see the future of it going personally?
Well, it is profitable. I'm sort of a developer with ADD. I mean, I do a project and I change and do something different the next time, which is not a smart way to be a developer. So I've had flops and I've had successes. This one's working out well. I think that there is a market. There's a huge demand for people who want to live their values. And that means both living with a low carbon footprint, but also living in community, living a simple life that they can walk places. So location matters enormously. And people, the buyers I work with, they expect some level of green building in their home. And we provide that. And sometimes they want a lot of customization, and I can't provide that because I've learned the hard way that too much customization could just be insane for a contractor when you're building multiple homes at once. But I think that there is demand for this going forward. And I think that the demand is strongest among people who are getting older and want to downsize, live in the neighborhood that they know and love, but they don't need as much space, and they're really conscientious about the environment. And also, there's a lot of demand from young folks starting families. And this community's got both. It's got about a dozen kids from a bump, a kid on its way, to about 7 or 8, and lots of kids in the 3 to 4-year-old range. So they're already visiting, seeing the site, riding their bikes through. They're in construction. And so we're seeing folks at both ends of the housing market looking for smaller places to live and looking to live in community, because people are, they want to garden and they want to have friends around, and maybe their biological family might be on the other coast or might be far away. So yeah, there is demand for this.
And so I am in just a minute going to transition us to our final site, but we've got one question here, which is, were there any repurposed or sustainably obtained materials in the building materials of Cully Green? And if so, what were some of the proudest features from your perspective in terms of what's relevant to the embodied energy?
Mm-hmm. You know, I've done more of that in past projects, to be honest. We did take down one apple tree, and we used that for all the live edge windowsills in the common house, which is a beautiful example. We dug up a lot of stones, which we use in the landscaping. And you know, one of the things I'm proudest about from an embodied energy perspective is doing low carbon concrete throughout in this project. which, to be truthful, as a builder is hard because the whole industry is not going that direction. So you have to nag, push to get them to actually just do a lower carbon mix. And that actually has more of a carbon impact than many of the other things that are more visible. So that's, but you know, the biggest things we preserved are the existing trees in the existing house, things we never took down. Too often developers take a site and they design the site without having ever done an as-built survey to know what's there. And once you do that survey, then you can lay it out to preserve some natural features, and we did that.
That's fantastic. And so just to recap, the incentives that were provided, there were great incentives, right, from Energy Trust, and there's incentives from the solar, there's the standard Energy Trust incentive, there's solar within reach for income qualifying families, which is huge. It's up to $9,000 per family. You know, what you're talking about.
Families are getting that, at least, yeah.
At least,
and this, I should say, the 3 families got that full subsidy because the panel's that big. Energy Trust also supported some of the other things in the new program to help with the charging stations and setting the homes up for photovoltaics. That was also some support we got. And then there's the standard subsidies if you build houses that are nice and tight, low blower door tests, and some subsidies there too. So it is definitely worth communicating with your solar installer and your insulation contractors to make sure you, if you're doing the right stuff, they can pay for a little bit of it.
That's fantastic. Eli, thank you so much. I love taking a look at Cully Green. Again, everybody, there's a great tour video for each of these sites and great information online. Check that out too, because it's just really good. Eli, thanks again. Let's go ahead and we're going to move to our final site. I'm super excited to have Dale and Jane Fisher here, who are in Ashland. And Dale and Jane, I'm so thrilled to have a tour that we can do statewide, which is one of the advantages of doing it virtually. You live in a whole community that was built zero energy ready, right? Do you want to tell us your energy story?
Well, first off, thanks, Zach, and thanks everybody. I'm so impressed by what the other presenters have done. John and Ryan, I'd like to know where you got that little wooden plaque for your front door. That'd be nice. But no, I'm really impressed. But I think one thing off the bat is we are not developers or contractors. So our perspective is going to be a little bit more as consumers. So we probably won't be as strong on some of the technical questions. And I see that Fred Gant is there, and I appreciate that. He's probably the technical expert, not just on our house, but for this whole development. So if there's any real strong technical questions that I can't answer, I'm hoping Fred will jump in and help us out. So we were living in Portland in an apartment, and we were looking for a new house to buy, and we wanted to get a high efficient house. I don't think we had any particular criteria. We didn't know anything about net zero. We didn't know anything about, Earth Advantage. We didn't know anything about that certification, but we started looking for homes that were sustainably built and were high efficient. And Verde Village sort of kept coming up in our searches, and Verde Village was in Ashland, and we were familiar with Ashland. We have relatives living in Ashland, so we said we would come down and take a look at that development. And kind of right off the bat, we were really impressed with the vision, not just the vision of the high efficiency homes, but also the development is next to Ashland Creek. And so the developers have made good agreements with the city to make sure that we support the riparian and the aquatic ecology out there. In any case, we decided to buy a house. It was being built, so we bought a lot. We got to choose. The developers had certain designs that we could choose from that would fit on each different lot. We got to have some say about moving some walls, but I think that certainly the technical aspect of building the house was already set. There were a lot of choices that we couldn't make that would compromise the net zero and Earth Advantage certifications. We had our house built. I'm going to actually share my screen and just show a few pictures of the house so that people have an idea of what we're kind of talking about. That's our house with the solar panels on the top. I think we have 18 panels, and it's 6.4 kilowatts, I think, array. This is a house, you know, it's our gold at the end of the rainbow. You had a lot of fun. You like that picture?
That's fantastic.
And then just again, the environment that we live in here in Ashland. Kind of a view from the inside, a lot of windows, high ceiling. Those are south-facing windows. We also have north-facing windows that kind of give us that extra light. When I was talking about the community and preserving the creeks, all of the water runoff from the streets and from our roofs kind of are collected, and they go into bioswales. And then the bioswales will gradually go into some holding ponds down in the wetland before it goes into the creek, before it's reintroduced to the creek. And so that's some of our bioswales. And that's sort of a street view of kind of curving sidewalks and kind of some of our trees.
So Dale, I'm curious in terms of, you know, as someone who wanted to live in an efficient home and you found what is a good match for you, and as someone who you say, you know, you're not someone who's a technical library about your own home, what's it like living in a zero energy home in terms of what do you value about it? You know, zero energy homes, what we talk about they can be quieter too. It's not just the energy, but yeah, you pay less on your energy bills. They're quieter because of the insulation. And what does it mean to you? And is it something that you appreciate, or is it kind of just in the background doing its thing?
Well, I think on top, kind of at the top of the list is just we feel like we're doing something right. We feel like we've invested and made it a priority to participate in solutions for climate change. So I think that right there is probably the thing that helps me sleep better at night, just feeling like, you know, I'm not doing harm. But above that, I do think, yeah, the houses are really, really tight. They're quiet. When, you know, we've had smoke down here and the house is so tight that we can kind of turn off some of our circulation, and we're protected from a lot of that smoke. I think we have a blower score of like 2.5 ACH, which I don't know what that means. It kind of like when I open and close a door, my ears pop, but it's like there's no drafts, and so pollen stays out, and so I really appreciate, you know, kind of how tight the house is.
We lived formerly in a coastal house for about 35 years, and it was a 1940s house, and pretty much the wind blew through it. And we could tolerate that pretty much by the coast, but this is such a different experience, and I have to say it is so comfortable. And just with the mini splits that heat and give air to each individual room, we have this ability to just really the temperature where we live the most completely comfortable. And we just don't have to use a lot because the house is so tight, and that's just a new experience for us.
And I think the other thing is was I think the first Earth Advantage Net Zero community in the state of Oregon that was completed. I don't know if that's true anymore, but I think part of what that meant is everybody moving in here kind of had some shared values. So right off the bat, we're new to Oregon, and so it helped us start building a community with shared values.
I think the other part about this, like Eli was speaking to, these are all single family homes in this part of the development. There is a first phase of development that is more like what Eli was talking about. It's a more cottage style, and they're across the street, and there's about 24 homes there, and there's about 26 homes here. And but so I think that aspect of it is really appealing to us, that we have a really natural community. We have open spaces, shared spaces in the development. A way the developers sort of designed the whole project was to have low fences and just a lot of opportunities, walkways through the development, and shared spaces, just a lot of opportunities for community to come together. And that's been super helpful and just great. We love it.
That's great. Well, I have just a couple of questions here in the Q&A box. And folks, if you're listening and you have questions, we're going to open it up to a general Q&A in a second. But if you have questions for Jane and Dale, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. One question that I think is really great is, you were talking about you wanted an energy efficient home. What kind of premium were you expecting to pay for a more efficient house? And how did that compare to the reality of your purchase?
I think that's a hard question to answer. I think we were willing to pay a premium. I don't know how to quantify that in terms of like a percentage or a dollar sign or a dollar amount. But I think it is also another question about, did we pay a premium for this particular house? There are a lot of houses in Ashland that are not net zero that cost just as much or more. I think we probably did pay a certain amount more. I just don't know the answer.
And I think that one thing that we do know is that land is expensive in Ashland, and these houses, they're moderate homes. I don't think anything is over 2,000. They kind of range from about maybe the single family part of it, maybe 1,200 to mostly 1,700. But anyway, but they sit on small lots. They sit on relatively small lots, and so there was a way that we could sort of like, exchange the energy efficiency of the house with not having a huge lot. I think there were just some trade-offs.
Interesting. That's great. Well, I'm going to open it up to a general Q&A. Jane and Dale, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your zero energy story. I think it's so great that, zero is something, it's at a state where you can have a whole community that is zero energy ready, and it's just a matter of putting that solar on. I think that this really is such a surging trend in home design that I think it's more and more the future of housing in Oregon. So just a couple of notes before we jump into the general Q&A, and I want to say, please ask questions. That's the whole reason why we're here on the webinar. I love getting questions. Don't worry about whether your question's good or not. If you have questions for any of the panelists about energy efficiency or solar, or you wanted to remember the name of that specific thing that Ryan was talking about, or John, or Eli, or Jane and Dale, go ahead and put it in the Q&A box. And we're going to keep going, and I'm going to try to answer any questions that we have. At a certain point, if we have too many, I will jump off, and we will try to answer them over email. There was going to be a recording of this webinar, so I will send this out in an email to everybody who's attended. Also, this is one of 2 webinars for the Go Zero Tour 2020. And so our next webinar, same time next week as part of Sustainable Building Week again, 4 o'clock on the 21st. You'll get to hear from 4 other zero energy sites. So all of the action that you've seen today, we're gonna dig into even more. So I'm getting questions here in the Q&A. This is great. Keep them coming. We're gonna try and go through all of them. Dale and Jane, how many, just a quite quick question here, how many bedrooms in these homes generally?
Most are 3-bedroom, 2-bath. There's a few that are 2-bedroom. I mean, 3-bedroom, yeah, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. There's a few of them, I would say maybe 2 of them are 2-bedroom.
That's fantastic. That's a decent size, 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
John, we've got a question here for you. What kind of complexity was involved in creating that translucent covered patio, the bifacial panels? Was that a complex design? Was that something that was took a lot of finagling?
John isn't here anymore. Just so
John, okay, John is at an active site, so we'll forgive him for jumping off early. But I don't know if anybody else has worked with bifacial panels, but I can say, having worked previously in the solar industry and with my experience at Solar Oregon, that design of a patio with bifacial panels is something that you do see around. I think it's relatively easy, and that kind of structure, it's pretty easy to put in the bifacial panels. That's really what they're designed for. And so there are, I think, plenty of out-of-the-box solutions there.
We almost went with the bifacial panels on our project. The pricing was very similar to the ones we ended up putting on, which you only get solar light from one side of them. And they have a little bit more of institutional look, but that looks great on a little cool ADU that John's built. So I think that it's a little bit of a cosmetic trade-off, but the pricing was pretty similar.
That's great. I like this question. This question speaks to me, and I'll let anybody else who wants to jump in and answer as well. But how much of an electricity geek do you have to be to go solar? And I think you'll notice that there are some electricity geeks on this webinar. And Dale and Jane, would you identify as an electricity geek?
Oh, I didn't start out as an electricity geek, and I think I'm a quarter of a geek. Because I think when you're generating your own power and you're kind of seeing the effect, you start being interested and you start watching and you start seeing the effect more than just paying an electric bill at the end of the month.
Yeah. From my personal perspective, I am definitely an electricity geek. But I know a very large number of people who are not electricity geeks that have gone solar, and they go solar for many reasons. There's a huge economic value. You're offsetting your electricity costs, and it's also, over time, it's a way to build wealth. And that's why it's so important to have access to solar, and that's why some of these incentives especially the Energy Trust Solar Within Reach incentive is so great. Dale, what you're saying, that you've kind of become a little bit more, maybe a quarter of a geek. I hear that all the time when people have gone solar. It definitely makes you more interested, but I definitely know that it's not a prerequisite.
Yeah, Zach, I just wanted to add that I, of course, turned into an energy efficiency electricity geek with home energy monitoring systems, where I was constantly looking at what I was producing versus what I was using and why, right? Why is what makes you start thinking about it. But for anyone who's interested, you don't have to know anything about it. It can just be on in the background. There's nothing to maintain. It's one of the only mechanical systems in your home that you don't have to do a dang thing about. It's just operating in the background.
That's great. We've got a question here, and Ryan, I wonder if this, being a technical person, is in your wheelhouse. I don't know what the question is really asking, but does anybody know anything about the difference between silicone-based solar, silicone-based solar and graphene? Okay, I didn't identify that originally as a solar question because I didn't see the word solar in there. I'm not familiar with graphene. I can tell you a little bit about the solar technologies that exist. Silicon-based solar panels. That is the dominant form of solar panels that you'll see in the market. Pretty much all solar panels that I see installed by contractors in Portland, certainly, and in Oregon, are silicon-based, and they're great panels. There are other types of panels, particularly there's a whole family of technologies called thin films. And this is a bunch of, you can think of them like boutique technologies to create solar in a bunch of different ways. Some of them use nanotechnology, some of them, actually, I think all of them might be nanotechnology, but they're all different flavors of it. And there are panels like that available, and the market may shift towards thin films. I know it did at one point, but it shifted back towards silicon, and I think for really good reasons. But in general, all the solar panels that you'll see are silicon-based. Ryan, we've got a question for you. I see you used a shingle roof. I see some photovoltaic systems, solar systems, over shingles in my area, and the roofs are clearly near the end of their lives. What kind of considerations did you have when choosing the roofing type? And are you expecting the solar system to be at the end of its life in 30 years?
Great question. Metal roof is ideal. I certainly wanted metal roof. There was a lot of things we wanted to do but couldn't afford. So metal is likely the best option for this. We at least did a new roof in solar at the exact same time with the same contractor, which we figure is a smart move. I do expect the solar system to outlive our roofing, but hopefully not by much. So we'll see. But it's a great question. Anyone who can afford a higher quality, more durable roofing product to install at the exact same time with the solar would be a good call. So ours is not a perfect setup for sure.
That's what you're saying is absolutely true. The metal roofs are the best. Solar, though, is installed all the time on asphalt shingle roofs, and they're, the key that I always say is, 10 years of life left on the roof, and it's really a contractor will get up there and use his boots to nudge a little bit of grains of sand off of one of your shingles and see how quick they fall off. But yeah, if you have a choice and you're thinking about installing a roof, metal is just a great way to go. I see a question here from Ole. What would the bifacial panels, so those are the panels that are over the carport on John's ADU. John's no longer here, but would they be suitable for an atrium space, allowing sunlight to enter and brighten a space, but preventing too much heat in summer? I can answer that. I think that that is exactly the kind of architectural creativity that John was talking about. You know, if you are have a specific use case that you're wondering about, like that, I don't specifically know. I guess I haven't seen an atrium that's been covered in bifacials, but I would not be surprised at all if it's been done. And I'm sure it's relatively easy to configure them that way. And I am reading through questions here. I see a couple of questions for John that I don't know how to answer. Here's a great question with, and this is something that we get all the time at Solar Oregon. With my solar panel configuration, there are no options for powering my home when the grid is off. And this is a really big misconception that's great to clear up. Solar doesn't give you the power to go off grid by itself. You need batteries for that. So that's when you saw John's power walls on the outside of his ADU. That's what gives you what we call energy resilience, the ability to go off the grid when the power is down. You know, he's still tied to the grid and using the grid when he needs it. And that's really what you need. You can't configure the solar in a different way and allow it to do that. There are some inverters, which the inverter is just the box that translates the solar electricity into a form that your home can use. And the inverter is this thing that hangs usually in the garage. And some inverters will have like an emergency outlet that can power a small refrigerator or power some lights or charge a laptop, something like that. But it's not going to give you the larger scale energy resilience that a lot of people think of. That's a great question.
Zach, I just wanted to add that I'm dreaming of the future where your electric car is your home battery. And I could see this happening. I know we're not there yet, but a really slick interface where your house and your car and your solar are all prioritizing, you know, where to use the energy and when.
That's, yeah, this EV to grid to EV electric vehicle. That is something I've heard a lot about. It's definitely in testing with, certain utilities. And I'm also looking forward to that. I think that that's going to be a huge thing. If you have an electric vehicle in the driveway, why not use it to power your home in an outage, right? I see a question here. I recently learned photovoltaics will never produce enough power to offset the energy it took to manufacture them. We can consider sustainability from many views. How do you guys reconcile this in your mind? What benefits about solar outweigh the environmental cost of creating them? That's a really good question, and I thank you for asking that. It's a little bit of it's not really true about PVs in terms of the energy input, solar panels. It is something that I hear occasionally. Solar panels, when a manufacturer produces them, often they will produce a report, a life cycle report for the resources that go into that. And every solar panel, every manufacturer is different. I know that a lot of panels, it might be around, say, ballpark 20% of the energy that they produce over their lifetime kind of goes into them. So actually, it's very much not the case. But still, they're a manufactured product. It's something that is a physical thing that does have costs that go into it. Overall, solar is just a slam dunk environmentally to produce clean energy. I would say that if you're looking to improve upon solar and to reduce those costs that go into any manufactured good, it really, you want to talk about conservation. And this is what zero energy is all about. It's about energy efficiency and solar. So when you make your home energy efficient, you're reducing the number of solar panels that you need to put on your roof in order to power your home. And so that's where you make that benefit there for reducing the baked in costs to a physical good like a solar panel. Overall, from a life cycle perspective, especially silicon-based solar panels, they have an overwhelming benefit for the environment to produce clean energy, unless you can reduce that energy, like I say.
I just pasted into the chat box a link. It takes about 4 years for a PV panel to generate as much electricity as it took to make it. Beyond that, you're getting a surplus.
Yeah.
It's a myth.
And a solar panel can last, and this is actually one of our questions that just came in the Q&A. How long do solar panels last? Solar panels are really commonly warranted for 25 years. And some of the first solar panels that were ever produced are still around, still producing energy. It's such a simple technology. There's no moving parts. It's not like a coal power plant that has all these spinning turbines and you've got this dust being created and whatnot. That they last a long time. They do degrade at a really slow rate, and so you'll see a really slow degradation. But like I said, the ones that were still produced in the 70s often are still kicking out electricity.
But I think all that is the inverter's lifespan that you have to watch out for, right? Because they tend to last about 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
The inverter.
Yes, yeah. So this is a great point, is that solar panels last very long. Inverters also last a while, but maybe, I don't know that there's a typical lifespan, but they're typically warranted, say for like 10 years, but you can get a 25-year extended warranty for like a small addition. I always suggest, as Solar Oregon, pay the small extra amount to get the extended warranty, because if there is a component in a solar system that goes wonky, it's not very common, but it'll likely be the inverter. And I see a question here about, we were talking about the EV, using the battery in an electric vehicle and to power your home. And the question is, what's stopping that? And the answer is everything and nothing. But it's complex because it involves the grid and the fact that your home was not built to be powered from an electric vehicle. So all of the infrastructure and bureaucracy of utilities and of regulatory processes to make sure that it's a safe technology, that once it's on the market, it's going to work really well. I think that from my perspective, is probably what is the holdup. I know that it's technically feasible in an experimental setup. I think it has been done. And we have more questions here. Keep them coming if you want to. I want to acknowledge my panelists' time too. So if any of you have to jump off, feel free to jump off now. But thank you so much for being here. And we are gonna take the couple of questions that are for John, who is gone now. And I will put those to John and we'll get back in touch with you. And we've got one last question here, which I'm not sure I can speak on as Solar Oregon, but I think it's an interesting question to pose, which is, if the elections shift power, meaning political power. Do you expect better federal incentives to return? I'm not sure. I certainly don't have a crystal ball. And I know that what I can tell you is that the biggest incentive, the investment tax credit, has been around for over a decade. And that's been through all sorts of political changes. And that solar, by and large, has very strong bipartisan support. It's a great driver of producing local jobs. It's a huge part of the economy. More people work actually in solar generation than in oil, natural gas, and coal electricity generation combined. And that's been true for a little while. And so not really being able to comment on political ramifications of anything. I can say that I think that people will see the value in solar no matter what happens. And that is pretty much what we've got for questions. So I think it's about time. We've been on here for almost 2 hours. Thank you everybody for your time and for being part of the Go Zero Tour. I want to say again how excited I am to have these 4 presenters, and we're going to have 4 more presenters next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Make sure you check out the virtual tour website. Check out the videos, which are really good. There's great information on there, and that's going to be a learning resource for a long time for Solar Oregon. Thanks again to our sponsors, title sponsor Energy Trust of Oregon, and to all of our sponsors. We are super excited about zero energy housing, and I hope that you guys have all learned quite a bit. Take a look in your inbox for the link for the recording and also a survey. I would love to hear how our first big zero energy homes tour went virtually. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Zach. Bye.